Hey, it's David Ricciardi, and you should absolutely be watching the Crew Reviews.
All right, boys, let's raise a glass to David Ricciardi returning to the Crew Reviews. How are you, Palsy?
Pleasure to be here, gentlemen.
Oh, he's joining in. That's good news.
Not toasting myself, toasting back at you.
Toasting the crew is always a good thing. All right, here we are, number 4 for David Ricciardi in his latest book, Shadow Target. All right, as always, let's hear it. What is the 30,000-foot view of this latest book of yours?
All right, so my hero's name is Jake Keller, and he's a CIA paramilitary operations officer. And Jake comes to in this book, and he realizes somebody's trying to kill him. And he doesn't know who, and he doesn't know why, but it's pretty damn clear that somebody's trying to end his life. And he's not too excited about that, but really what spurs him to action is when he realizes that somebody is trying to kill his fellow PMUs, the paramilitary operations officers. And he notices a trend that nobody else really sees, and he's got to enlist a bunch of his allies, some new allies in this book, and some from the older books. And he's got to get some people on his side because the threat might be coming from inside the agency. And he's got to be real careful who he trusts.
Ooh, no kidding.
There it is.
Well,
I'm going to drink to that.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much, does it, Chris?
It doesn't take much.
Not at all, dude.
So your book comes out right, as we're coming out of the COVID era here and the pandemic. So when you were writing this, you hit targets like the Alps, London, Paris. Was the locations based on prior trips, or were you becoming a master about the online research, or was this a little bit of both? How did you manage to do that during this latest phase here?
So I was fortunate enough to live in London many years ago. I spent a lot of time in the Alps. Probably 6 or 7 times I've been over there. Winter, summer. So all that's based upon personal experience. And honestly, the online research was mostly for the stateside portion of the book, which was, a lot happens down in the National Capital Region. So
yeah, I was going to say some of the restaurants. I was like, how does he know about those restaurants?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of friends down in that area too.
What's your favorite place in the Alps? I mean, like which part of the Alps have you explored the most?
So, the book takes place in the French Alps in a town called Courchevel, which I absolutely love, and the skiing is just amazing. Which is kind of one of I'd say that's my passion sport. But the Austrian Alps, just that area, all of Austria, frankly, it's one of my favorite countries.
Same.
Summer, winter, it's just an amazing place. People couldn't be nicer
there.
Oh, Austria
never been there.
Stunning. Austria.
Oh, yes.
I went there a couple years ago, and it's just breathtaking.
Yeah.
On my list, haven't been there. Well, one of the themes, David, that you explore in Shadow Target is the uneasy tension between the shot callers and the boots on the ground types. There's clearly a need for civilian oversight, despite a long track record of people doing a poor job of it. And there's also a need for operational flexibility on the battlefield, despite a long track record of people doing a poor job of it, whether we're talking military or espionage. Was there something you've been ruminating on? Was this something you've been ruminating on, or did it just sort of flow organically from the plot you were writing?
I mean, I think, if nothing else, the past year has highlighted something that's been a constant in society forever, and that's nobody's perfect. no information is perfect, no assessment is perfect, no intelligence analysis is perfect. So that sort of that constant ambiguity, that uncertainty is something I wanted to highlight in the book. And it wasn't like any sort of, political statement or any function of COVID or anything like that. I'm just saying that last year sort of highlighted it, for everybody pretty starkly when, the guidance for COVID changed so many times. Like you should wear a mask, you shouldn't wear a mask. You do this, you shouldn't do this. But, I see the same thing in everything we do. There's always some uncertainty. And if you're never going to find in most things 100% certainty, but you need to get comfortable enough with the analysis you're doing to act. Otherwise, you'll be paralyzed. So, my soapbox.
Wow. When I was reading this, there was a lot of talk about Jake Keller and his gut instinct, and he relies on it often. And it hasn't failed him yet, although it's taken him down some pain-filled roads, both physically, emotionally, and especially in Shadow Target, where you try to kill Jake more times than I could count, which was kind of awesome. But
I mean, I like story. I like rooting for the underdog. That's who I am as a person. I could have a sports team, and if they just become overly dominant, I'm rooting for the guy against him. And
so is that the thing? Do you see Jake Keller as the underdog? Is that why you enjoy trying to kill him?
Well,
so
yeah,
many times?
I like to put him on defense. I like him to be on his back foot in the fight, and things not looking so good for him, because we all face struggles and challenges in our life, and it's when you're struggling is when you're really tested and when you show what you're made of. When everything's going great, that's super easy. But when everything gets hard, that's when you really need to dig deep down and prevail. So that's what I like in the hero. So that's why I do that. And it's fun too.
Yeah, right. Of course, it's fun as a
Nobody
reader.
really gets hurt, right? And I can beat the snot out of them over and over again, and nobody gets hurt.
You do. Christmas list, yeah. I kind of got the skiing bug again reading this book. So, as a former ski instructor, you seemed right at home in writing those sections of the book. Really came out as somebody with extreme knowledge, which obviously you do. Did you find writing those sections quicker or more or easier than other sections, just because you had such a visual and strong personal history with that sport in particular? So I knew what I wanted to write, but I actually found, and I did this in Warning Light too. So I'm a big sailor too, and there's a scene in Warning Light where Jake crosses the English Channel, and I wrote it very technically because that's how I think about it, and I had to go over it 100 times to simplify it. And the same thing is, I know which scene you're talking about. Yeah. In that scene, like I had to go through it and simplify it because it's not that the reader couldn't understand, but they probably get bored before they figured it out. So I wanted it to be like, I wanted you to get the adrenaline, get the sensation, get the challenge, understand what the character who's doing the race course is going through, and sort of the grit and feel that they have, because it translates to their personality in other things in the book. So it was fun to write for me. Yeah. But it wasn't like it just was one shot down on the page. I actually had to go through it quite a bit. Yeah, I find the same thing if I'm writing about something like, say, in medicine or something. What seems normal to me, and people read it and they're like, "What is this?" Yeah,
too much.
I probably wouldn't understand half the words you wrote. Yeah, I'm like, there was
someone we recently interviewed that said you could write like the best passage description of a scene or whatnot, and the reader will likely skip over it to the next point of dialogue. Yeah. But I didn't skip over any of that stuff.
I liked it.
I loved it. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Well, I turned the storyline of Shadow Target over in my head, both as I was reading it and after I put it down. And I kept coming back to this reality that people who work in the shadows of intelligence, particularly in the special activities division or operations, are more vulnerable to betrayal because they operate in this funhouse of mirrors where so little is what it seems. And information and truth is compartmentalized so tightly. Their successes are never, celebrated, and their failures can easily be fatal. And I imagine it's impossible to have anything resembling a normal relationship. And you do a very good job of illustrating that in this book. What do you think draws men and women to that life? Because it's not glory. I mean, any glory you have is, only known by a very small group of people.
I mean, I think a lot of different things draw different people to it. Like I've got a friend of a friend who was in Delta, and he told me, he was like, hey, I just wanted to be a soldier. I didn't have it wasn't like duty, honor, country to me, because I just thought it was cool to be a soldier. And then there's other people who, something very personal drove them, after September 11th, they enlisted, or they went, and joined Directorate of Operations or something along those lines. So I think it's different motivations for a lot of people, but for sure the divorce rate is high. Drinking's high. It's a challenge on a whole different bunch of levels in terms of can't talk to your family about what you're doing. You're gone for long periods of time, incommunicado. I'm grateful for the people who sign up and do it. But I think it takes a big personal toll.
God, no doubt.
It's very gratifying, really gratifying. But it comes at a high price.
And in the book, you use one of the touchstones early on in the book in particular is the wall of stars at the CIA headquarters. And I always think, every time I think about that, I think about the fact that, there has to be something different about those people, because you can get into the military or get into something where you do get the glory. If you, if you create, a mission, you do get, a Congressional Medal of Honor or Silver Star, Bronze Star. But when you're working in those dark shadows, that star on the wall, it might be the greatest and saddest honor you get. And I don't know. I was this book really put me in a place to think about that. Like very few books I've ever thought about.
Good. I'm glad.
Well, I mean, look at the lens that Jake goes to. I mean, his name's changed. He changes his appearance. He even gets his hair dyed in this one. And so it's, I mean, it's impressive.
We've done that for the crew, so that's not.
Oh yeah.
He's given up pretty much everything.
And he gives up a girl he loves. And
when he was
maybe she makes a reappearance.
Yeah, when he was 28 years old, he gave up all his ties to his former life.
Right.
And think about, going into a job like this with all the things we just talked about, and with no friend base, no family, no love life. At 28 years old, and you spend 9 months a year overseas.
Yeah, he has a long talk with the Cecilia, I think that was her name, right? Yeah, who was an awesome character, by the way. He has a long like it's almost like his conscious, talking back to him. And I thought those conversations were really revealing about Jake. But Russians, they loom large in Shadow Target. There's Kozlov, the oligarch. There's the triplets, Boris, Ilya, and Gregory, who are the muscle.
Yeah.
And Misha, the assassin.
The acronym, by the way. That's how I remembered it when I was writing it. Boris, Ilya, and Gregory.
Big? Big, yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I just realized that now. That's fantastic. And so then there's Misha, the assassin with the soft spot for the girls. But I wondered, as I read the story, whether you had each of these characters fleshed out before you actually wrote the story, or whether some came into existence out of the necessity of the storyline.
Great question, and combination. Some characters, like Nadia, Misha's girlfriend, or whatever you call her, she wasn't really a character until the story got going, and then I said, you know what, we can show a different side of Misha here. Like he's a bad guy, but he's not all bad. Like, very few people are 100% bad or 100% good, and I thought it was fun to complicate, making the good people a little bad and making the bad people a little good, and let's dip into the gray area. So
I mean, you get that the reader gets that when something happens in the chalet, and Misha goes and protects the one girl because she's getting beat up by one of the triplets. There's tension between those between Misha and the muscle. So you get that. I mean, you get that he likes to. I mean, doesn't tell Nada he likes to kill people, but he likes to kill people, but he's not all bad. And so you ride that fine line pretty good with that character.
Yeah.
good. Thanks. I like it.
So Shadow Target is the 4th book in the Jake Keller series. Do you have an idea in your head where Keller's life is heading? Or do you just focus on one book at a time and just kind of let the storyline kind of spool up and take you for a ride in that direction?
I have a progression in my head of where his life is going. And I've actually put it to paper, or, online, I guess. But I'm really willing to go in a different direction if something grabs me. And Shadow Target it evolved a couple times. Black Flag before it evolved dramatically from where I originally planned that book to go. That book changed 80% from my original, plan and outline. Yeah, it changed a lot. Shadow Target maybe a little bit less. But I definitely start off, at least, for me personally, I need to have a pretty thorough outline before I start writing. But like you said with Misha, for example, if something comes up that presents itself, I'm happy to deviate from it if it makes a story better. I'm not a slave to my outline.
Does Tom? Do you get pushback from Tom when you deviate a little bit like
Tom?
that, or no?
Oh,
The Tom.
No. Tom his final saying is always, "Hey, it's your book," and not in a way like your wife says, "Hey, do whatever you want."
Yeah, right. Meanwhile, I'm gonna stab you tonight. But
That's
anyway,
the right way, honey.
No, but Tom's super supportive, and he will point out deficiencies or opportunities. And 90% of the time he's probably right, or I should agree with him. Everybody needs an editor, whether it's a friend or a professional or whomever. But as you guys well know, writing a book is a long process. I mean, it takes me a year to from when I start one of these things to when I finish it. So it's not as sharp for me as for somebody who just sits down and reads it in a weekend. So a lot of things become obvious when you read it quickly. So I would say he's very supportive and insightful. I'd say that's probably the best way to put it.
By the way, the weekend, 2 days.
Yeah.
2 days, buddy. It took you a year to write, 2 days to read.
Thanks for the 48 hours. Yeah.
Thanks. That reduces my life that's a microcosm of my life.
Yeah, right.
2 days. No, it was really good.
2 days, what it takes me a year to do.
I know. I loved it though. I loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you.
Well, Mike talked about travel research in his first question. Has your desire to go to a certain place ever driven a story? And for instance, my wife and I have fallen in love with Italy, in particular the Amalfi Coast. And I absolutely now have plans to set a script there, mostly so I have to go do a long research. But I mean, part of it was I was there and I thought of a story, but the rest of it was like, I love to travel and let's set a story there. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever been driven by your wanderlust?
I would say it's the opposite, really, where I've been somewhere and I said, what if? Like I'm constantly, I don't call it like war gaming things in my head, but I constantly look at like just everything around me and sort of analyze it. And it's not necessarily a great trait, but it's just the way I am. Like I'm a very analytical person. I look around like, oh, what if that happened? Or what if this happened? Or what if this happened? And it could be good things or bad things. But a lot of times it will lead to, oh, well, what if, here we're at the OPEC building in Vienna. What if this were to happen here? Or what if that were to happen here? So I would say it's almost the opposite for me, where the location drives the story idea. Although I heard somewhere years ago, like I think it was Danielle Steele used to go rent a villa in, Tuscany, for example, for a month and go write. Probably because it was a good tax deduction, but maybe that did inspire her. Who knows?
Never,
Company, John.
I never thought about that until I got my, until you make an LLC and you're like, you know what? I can write off everything.
Well, we were talking about, spending time in Italy during quarantine when we're all locked into our houses, going, oh, where are we going to go now or next?
Crazy.
And I said, I need to write a romantic comedy because there hasn't been a good one for a while, and C, or B, C, I skipped right to C, and B because I want to set something in the Amalfi Coast, so maybe have the chance to go research it, and hey, if it's filmed, maybe have a chance to go sit on set and kill time. But I literally did that for the first time. I outlined a story based on start with the location. And said, what could happen here? But anyway, I was just curious. Well, we know you enjoy travel, and you mentioned that you've gone to Colorado, you've gone to Florida, you've gone to a couple places recently. Is there a place that, as you sat there and changed your house at the period you were, where you're anxious to get to when travel really opens up?
Yeah, so we're as a family, we're really eager to go scuba diving, which you can imagine with a respiratory disease circling the planet, probably not the greatest activity to participate in. Go grab a regulator in some third world country and jump underwater for an hour.
I'm gonna wipe it off with a hand or something.
Yeah,
we didn't say writers were smart.
Adventurous, yes.
But
Adventurous.
So us, like the rest of the planet, are probably going to try to get away over Christmas or something like that. And
Excellent.
I know Mark Graney just took his family to Hawaii.
He's diving in Hawaii right now.
He's diving, so.
Yeah. So my kids and I are all rescue divers. So we all got advanced certification years ago.
Overachievers.
Jeez.
Well, that's what I said to the kids is basically like, hey, if you're going to do something, do it right and get trained by professionals to a good level where you can actually pitch in and do some good if you need to. So, in fact, we can talk about that. But my wife and I rescued somebody off a boat this past weekend while we were.
What? Oh, all right. Tell that story. Tell it.
Go. So she and I are going out for a little sunset cruise, and we're cruising out through a no wake zone, and we hear this air horn like you would hear at a high school soccer game, and there's a guy over there waving frantically. He's got two little kids in an inflatable boat. It's like a Zodiac, but a soft bottom one, not a rib.
Right.
And so we cruise over to him, and he's got one of the cells on his boat is punctured and completely flat. And I said to him, look, we're happy to take you aboard, and we're lifting his kids aboard. I said, but the boat is fine. It's not going to sink with, it's designed like this for redundancy. But so anyway, so we lifted his kids aboard. I think they were in 4th grade and 2nd grade, and then brought him aboard, and then towed the sinking Zodiac back to shore. But yeah, so that was our fun for the weekend. So.
Dang.
But anyway, the reason I mentioned the rescue scuba diving thing is hey, look, maybe you can do some good while you're out there too.
Panned out.
Dude, that's awesome. All right, so there's a part near the end of the story where Jake and some of his teammates conduct vehicular surveillance. And I'm pretty sure you haven't gone through that kind of training because I know your background. Yet you got the communications and actions pretty accurate. Do you have a go-to person for authenticity when it comes to writing such scenarios, or do you rely on other stories you've read or watched to make it as good as you made it?
I have been, thank you, first of all. That scene, by the way, was 5 times as long in the first version. And when I went back and reread it, I'm like, oh my God, this is boring. So I slapped it down and made it more exciting.
I kind of want to read that now.
But I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing.
And be like, yeah, no,
I have been very fortunate in my writing career that I haven't had to go outside friends or occasionally friends of friends to have people like, in your former job or intel or military or diplomatic corps. So there were a lot of people I can go to and be like, how would you do this? Or, FBI. So I'm very fortunate that I have some pretty good sources who are, trusted sources like friends of mine or come with a personal recommendation. So I'm glad I got it right. It's always,
Yeah, you did.
when you put in front of a former Secret Service agent and he says, hey, job well done, I'm grateful. So thank you.
Yeah, well done, brother.
We'll just
Well
have to
done.
find one to agree with you on that.
I know, right? You guys.
But hey,
suck.
Chris, you get your wife.
Yeah, my wife. Hold on, I'll bring her in. Hold on. She'll
Shooting
tell you did a
instructor.
great job.
I know we're talking about Shadow Target here, but you're on book 4 and you've had some really good success with these 4 titles. Have you had an itch yet to start something else, either a standalone or another type series or another storyline?
I haven't written a word since the pandemic started. But yeah, I have. I like the idea of a series because you can grow and see the hero mature, and hopefully, you like become friends with them, and you have empathy for them at least, and so I love the idea of a series, but yeah, there is a certain desire to do something completely different, and it's almost impossible to not have other ideas come into the head. So, I've got probably a half dozen other storylines kind of ready to go. And I think once the world gets back to normal and I get back onto a writing schedule, we'll see what comes next, but TBD.
Are any of them have involved Genevieve?
Genevieve?
Yeah, Genevieve. Yeah. 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 Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Don't give anything away here, Christopher.
I'm gonna
We'll edit that out.
I do it every time. I'm so sorry.
He's always
but
dragging stuff out.
I'm gonna take a drink on your behalf.
If you watch our interview with Alma Katsu, there's a section where you can tell we edited Chris out.
Because Chris in his dumb mouth. Hey, I know. No.
Chapter when this happens.
Yeah. These last 3 things in the news, this is what that was, right?
That's my filter. I don't have one
She's
anymore.
going cross-eyed, like, stop asking me.
Maybe we should do these in the morning and not, after this.
No.
A work day in this. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. This is better. Well, gentlemen, let's raise a glass to David Ricciardi. And he survives the main portion of our interview. And Christopher and Sean, what are in your glasses?
Oh.
I wanted to ask you before we start.
I have Rabbit Hole, the Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey.
Fantastic. Ooh, nice.
I have the same thing. I just don't have the bottle handy because I was afraid if I did have the bottle handy that I would continuously refill this glass.
Beautiful.
I have been on your behalf.
Mike, how about you?
Well, I can't find Rabbit Hole yet in Colorado, but I'm hoping to have it soon. So this is just a little bourbon 10.
Bullet. Yeah,
Fantastic.
fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
Wait. Can you tell our audience about your rum there, David?
Yeah. Oh, that's here, buddy.
I was getting down to the bottom of the liquor cabinet for this.
It's COVID. It's okay.
Not the bottom, like the bottom shelf, but this is do a little product placement here. It's a Ranza Capa, Exo Solera Gran Reserva Especial rum, which I had a buddy from Barbados who turned me on to these high quality rums probably 10, 15 years ago. And I was never really a rum drinker. And then I found these really good rums that you can have over like a single ice cube, and they're fantastic.
Ooh,
now, the Zacapa is my favorite. This particular Zacapa is twice the price of the regular Zacapa and about 85% of the flavor. So I get the regular Zacapa most of the time. But
well, there's more words in the title, so it's just more.
But cheers to that.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Hey, this is the part of the show where we try not to ruin your career, and of course, this is stream of thought process. And as today's host, let me pull up the questions because these are brutal. I've got to make sure I get these right.
Yeah,
all right,
it is. He knows.
Here we go. Number one. Have you ever tried to impress someone on the slopes with a killer skiing move, only to crash and burn right in front of them?
Oh.
I'm sure I have.
If you haven't, I want to hear you make up something on the spot.
He went
right
to the
now.
Catskills with his girlfriend, and boom.
At least I've never blown out a knee doing a helicopter. So,
oh, geez.
I do that going up the stairs now. All right. Speaking of which, what is the most gruesome skiing injury that you've ever seen?
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. Okay, so my son almost took his thumb off a month ago. He was out in Utah, and he was at Snowbird skiing, and he called home and he's like, "Hey, just so you know, I had a ski accident. I'm headed to the emergency room now. It's all wrapped up. I feel fine. Just wanted to give you a heads up." And he's an adult. He's 25 years old. Like, okay, cool. Like 3 hours later, 4 hours later, get a text from him at the ER, meeting with a surgeon. The bleeding finally stopped. I'm like,
What? What?
And
The thumb.
postscript, I won't be hitchhiking anymore.
At 1 a.m., the surgeon finished up the
Holy shit.
tendon, ligament, muscle, and bone repair. They had to put a titanium piece into the bone. And
Mike?
then, Mike, I mean, you know more about this than you put together. But then they had to do muscle, nerve, ligament, and tendon repair.
And now he doesn't have a big toe anymore.
He texts a lot slower.
No more hitchhiking.
And he said,
Wow.
He said my concern was it was my my finger picking hand, but it's his strumming hand, so he's fine.
Just
So how did that happen?
That's the most skiing accident I've ever seen.
How does that happen? Like,
So
I'm not a skier.
The
It
pole.
was spring skiing out in Utah, probably 50 some odd degrees, wasn't wearing any gloves. Started to go over, put his hand down to hold him up, and went right over it with the edges, razor sharp
Jesus.
edges.
Oh.
And ironically, you may notice that there's a scene in Shadow Target where a guy picks up a set of skis, slices his hand open,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, careful with those. I just had them sharpened."
Yeah, no shit.
So right, crazy, right? So 2 years ago, when I wrote Rogue Strike, 3 years ago, there's a scene in there where Jake slices a guy's Achilles, and 6 months after I wrote the book, I blew out my Achilles, full run. So I'm going to write about guys winning the lottery.
With the lottery, yeah.
You write about three guys winning the lottery.
Yeah, I was gonna say. The name's Chris Albanese. Just write that in. Don Bentley wrote it in his book. You could write it in yours.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
wins the lottery. Just
Settle down
random
there, Chris.
throwaway.
Settle down.
Oh man. No, I saw somebody. Well, I didn't
That's
see them.
crazy.
I saw them after the fact. They got into a pileup with another skier and actually sliced into the carotid. Nearly bled out on the slopes. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
They don't ski.
Not to slow down the lightning round. But.
I know. Jeez.
All right. Last one.
Oh,
Is there any truth to the triplets based off of your love of the Hanson brothers from the movie Slapshot?
Jesus.
No. Thank
No.
Come on.
Would have been much
for me.
much more.
There was from me. All right, Shawnee boy, you're up.
That's who Mike pictured. If it helps.
Yeah, that's what I pictured.
Okay. So, what new skill did you develop or refine during quarantine, and maybe what skill atrophied?
Oh, yeah, great question. What skill did I develop during quarantine? I would say I became a much more proficient cyclist. I found myself with a lot more time to exercise than I normally have. So that would definitely be. And atrophy would definitely be my writing.
Writing.
But viewers, that was before he finished this book.
I know.
You can trust me. There's no atrophy in Shadow Target.
No.
Okay. So I'm not going to give a spoiler, but surviving a plane crash would be an absolutely terrifying ordeal. Other than that, what would be the most terrifying near-death experience?
That I've actually experienced, or just
No. What would be like
For you?
the most
I
terrifying?
think burning building has got to be one of the worst.
Yeah.
Being burnt does not sound fun at all.
No.
But now you've actually given me a segue into my third and final question. What is the closest near-death experience David Ricciardi's had?
Yeah.
All right, so this is, you're gonna get 2 for 1 here. This
He's
is
laughing.
Near-death experience and stupidest thing I've ever done. So
Oh,
Poor
many
guys.
years ago, I was out with a buddy and we were taking a road trip around the West skiing, and we went Colorado, Utah. When we got to Utah, the snow wasn't very good. So we were sitting at dinner one night and I'm like, you ever been to the Grand Canyon? He's like, yeah, but I'd go again. It was like a 12-hour drive. So we just jumped in the truck and drove down to the Grand Canyon. And while we were down at the Grand Canyon, and I'm 22 at this point, we decided to take some pictures. So we had our ski equipment with us. So I put on my skis and my boots, and I hung my tips off the edge of the Grand Canyon. And I got back in a racing start where I kicked up the tails like I was about to ski down off the Grand Canyon. It was probably half a mile straight down. So I think it's probably the closest near-death experience I've ever had.
And,
Dude,
and
that's
that qualifies exactly your
And
description.
dumb. Real dumb. Real dumb.
that's real.
Hell of a picture,
Real
though.
dumb.
Hell of a picture.
Yeah.
It was a good picture. I had a poster somewhere around the house until I had kids, and then decided,
Hey, hide that poster. Hide that poster.
let's not advertise how dumb Dad is.
Oh, kids, that was Photoshop. That was Photoshop.
Yeah, Dad never did those things. That's what my kids always ask me. They're like, Dad, what did you do? I'm like, Dad, I didn't do anything. I was a good kid. Nothing. Perfect.
All of his friends choke.
Your wife
All right. So speaking of skiing, since I'm up, here's my first question. What should you do if you are caught in an avalanche?
Great question.
Mm.
So you should ski. Let's assume you're in some sort of a valley or a ridge like that. You should ski up to the ridge to your right or left, because the snow will follow just like the fall line, like a ski
Little funnel.
the lowest point. So ski up, and then if the avalanche catches you, you're supposed to try to swim to the top. And then if you can't swim to the top, you're supposed to create a space where you won't suffocate immediately. So put some space between your face and the snow before it hardens up. So you'll give yourself some time to either dig yourself out or get dug out by a rescue party.
Ugh.
See, we're not just entertaining; we're saving lives.
I know. That's our job
Oh,
here.
and 3, kiss your ass goodbye.
So
back
I
to
didn't
it.
hear you mention like raise your pole like up so that someone can find you. This is where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm not sure you know which direction up is.
No, right?
Yeah, no, it's like
That
a
point.
wave.
Dude, that sucks. This is why I don't ski. All right. So let's flip the script here. With all the talk of aliens in the news, do you
Maybe so.
think they exist? Do you think they exist?
I think there's just statistically, there's got to be life on another planet, right? I mean, you look at the size and the age of the universe.
Huge.
And the conditions for life, whatever form it may take, whether it's, some fungus on another planet, or whether it's, we're all little puppets and it's up there going like, oh, little stupid humans. I think there's got to be life someplace.
Do you think the government's priming us with all this slow trickle?
I would like to think, I don't, the problem with conspiracy theories is that they're impossible to disprove, right? Like,
Sure.
Because you can always say that's part of the conspiracy. Like, oh yeah, that's part of the conspiracy. So, you can say like, okay, like for example, those Navy pilots who spotted those objects and caught them on their trackers and everything like that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I mean, that looks pretty strange to me. Is it Russian? Is it Chinese? Is it from another planet? Yeah, I have no idea. That usually doesn't stop me from having an opinion. But I don't know. It's probably life on another planet. Sure.
All right. Here is your
What are you
last.
not telling us, David? What are you
I
not
know.
telling us?
Wait,
That's part of the conspiracy too.
is David an alien? All right. So here's your last question of the day.
Oh, that makes
If
me
you
sad,
were-
actually.
Well, if you were Jake Keller's friend, which I don't think you are, but if you were his friend, what advice would you give him?
Straighten up and fly right, soldier. Get your priorities in line.
All right. Speaking of priorities, here's our priorities. The Toast, David Ricciardi, and Shadow Target, the 4th Jake Keller book. It was fantastic.
I love this book.
And we can't wait to see where things go next.
Thanks,
So
guys.
get to writing, Mr. Ricciardi.
It's a terrific book, David.
Yeah,
Thank
Well
you,
done,
guys.
dude.
I
Well
appreciate
done.
that.
really
Always
is.
sweet being on here. I mean, I really look forward to this time. I don't really consider this an interview as much as just getting together with some buddies. So
You better get checked out for that. All right.
As much as court appointed, you like it's penance for some crime. You have to like spend time with us.
Cheers to you, David. Have a good one.
Dude,
thanks, guys.
cheers, brother.
Thanks for doing this.
Boys. we have
Yes.
Ricciardi on the show today. His 4th Jake Keller spectacular thriller.
Yeah.
We loved it. He's
Yeah,
one of
they
the
look
good
like-
guys. We can't wait to see him again. In the meantime, don't forget, every Monday we have another best-selling guest on the show, and there they are.
Oh, my
Tres Amigos.
What's a gist?
I don't know, but let's raise a drink to it.
I'm going to drink to it anyway, and it's probably something important. Anyway, here's Mud in Your Eyes, boys.
Mud in it.
Well, my day is complete.
You're
Well,
lucky. I love you.
This is the
What are we doing?
This is
Is
the
it-
outro
Outro.
for Shadow Target.
Oh, by
And
who?
David Ricciardi.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's one of the good guys. He's
He
one of the
is.
good guys.
Yeah.
And
Wait, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
dang it.
Okay.
Time to figure it out. Oh,
Are you
here comes the
spotlighted?
drawing.
Oh, I don't even know what I'm gonna do. You don't even want
Can't wait to see what's coming, baby. Hey, before we start,
And what is that?
whiskey and bad decisions.
No such thing. No such thing.
There's just decisions.
Yes.
All right.
Whiskey.
In 3, 2,
Mhm.
1, game.
What's up?
Hey, boys. We
Yes.
had David Ricciardi on the phone today.
That didn't take long. Chris didn't even do anything.
Oh, yes, he did. Oh, my gosh.
That was funny, right?
It was funny.
What did he do?
It's not what I was hoping to see, but it was funny.
No,
I didn't see what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he showed me his foot. So I instead of I said book, I said phone.
Those are my toes
It
wiggling.
works. You know, I'm
Did,
kind
didn't
of crazy about that.
All right. What's next?
Take 2 then.
It is take 2.
Here we go.